neighborhoods, Sandra. People are moving at massive numbers. St. Lucie County, by far the fastest growing. Rezoning, districting for schools and the like, that is a big factor in the real estate industry to have a desirable school zone, yet they're gonna be changing and new schools are in the works. What is that information? What is the time of that information? How can these agents that are really invested in their careers be able to access that and get ahead of it, knowing that they have prospective families relocating?
Absolutely. Yeah, again, Port St. Lucie is the hottest part of the county, where we've traditionally seen all that residential development. It is continuing into the North County as well. We have some very large projects, Oak Ridge Ranch, Eden Lawn, that are coming on board as well. This website up here includes one map that shows you active development projects, and that is your tool where you can see where those developments are coming, because they're going through their land entitlement process now. And you can see that before they ever get to the building permit stage, before they ever get to the part where they open up their sales office and start providing property for you. So that's your way where you can kind of get a forecast and see where those hot spots are. We did update all of our impact fees last year. That was very important in order to make sure that all of our public facilities, libraries, parks, recreation areas, schools, of course, as well as things like police stations and fire stations, that they are getting properly funded and in the ways that they need to in order to keep up with that growth. Our transit director, Adolfo, is currently going through a major renovation, revision of the transit plan. He asked me to share with you a little bit of art information today. St. Lucie County did go fare free last year, so you can ride any of the art branded programs. That's micro transit and fixed route buses. Those are all fare free. They'll be introducing this coming year Palm Tran coming from St. Lucie West into West Palm Beach twice a day in the morning, twice a day in the evening for under $5 a ride. There's micro transit that will actually allow you to connect directly from your home to that park and ride lot at no cost. So you can get there and not even have to leave a vehicle there. So he's very proud of the work that he's doing in order to kind of bring that along. We are also working collaboratively with the City of Fort Pierce and the City of Port St. Lucie on a housing needs assessment. Those of you who are in St. Lucie County may have seen those surveys, those stakeholder meetings in the last 6 or 9 months. As they've been working on that, they are developing a database plan for where housing is going in St. Lucie County. How do we meet the current needs and how do we go with the continued growth? We expect that report to be back to us by the end of this year, and then they'll be bringing it to the municipalities and to the county government for an implementation plan. And that includes an affordable housing element as well.
Okay.
And then the last thing that I would just acknowledge is the state legislature, passed this past year the Live Local Act. And one of the major components in that is that it allows the development of housing on commercial, industrial, and mixed-use land. So land that has previously never been available for development of housing is now available for housing, and there are very limited restrictions on that. These areas can be developed as housing up to very, very generous thresholds with only a minor site plan. For those of you who have never been through land planning, if you've got a major site plan, you've got to go all the way before the county commission. You've got to have a public hearing. You've got to be noticed. If you're a minor site plan, it is a signature by the department director. It is so much easier to get through at that level. The other things that it allows is that there are much more generous density. For St. Lucie County, we are required to meet the maximum density anywhere in the county on these sites. In St. Lucie County, that is 15 units per acre. So if you can imagine how much housing we can develop at that threshold. And then the other thing is it removes much of the height restrictions. So you are required to allow those developers to take advantage of the highest height that is available within 1 mile of that location. For example, in downtown Fort Pierce, where Kings Landing is coming in at 8 stories plus, that would allow any commercial, industrial, or mixed-use land in the city of Fort Pierce within 1 mile of that site to also go up to 8 stories. And if there is not something that is significantly, it allows them to go at least to 3 stories. So these are some very, very big changes that our planning department is working to adapt to and be prepared for. We expect our first Live Local project to come in the next 3 months.
Oh, even before the end of the year?
Even before the end of the year. Yep,
Okay.
they've actually already gone through a pre-application process prior to the passing of Live Local. Live Local has addressed many of the challenges that they face, so they are now moving that project into active development.
Interesting. Andy, from an Indian River County standpoint, focusing on the neighborhood aspect and rezoning, are there new schools in the works? And again, if something were to be structured and rezoned, what's the best way for these agents to get that information?
Yeah, actually, we're a little bit, I think, counter to the trend. In the last, I think, 8 years or so, we've had a decrease in school enrollment every single year by a couple percentage points. So we're actually looking at consolidating schools more so than building.
Ooh.
And I think, the main reasons behind that are just that the housing prices have gotten so high in Indian River County that we can't really, we're not attracting new families, we're attracting retirees and folks from South Florida. So one of our biggest pushes right now is to try to provide affordable housing like a lot of other jurisdictions are. And to do that, we're looking at some innovative ways, looking at making developers do it through incentivizing that on their projects. The county recently bought a piece of land and gave it to a developer with a large chunk of money to do a affordable housing development. So we're trying everything we can to get families in, but we're losing them quicker than we're bringing them in.
And if there was to be some consolidation of the schools, how quickly would that go into play?
It's hard to say. It changes each year, and maybe that trend reverses. It's hard to say. The other kind of new thing is there's a lot of homeschooled kids who are dropping out of the enrollment, so they're not in the classes, but they're actually allowed to use the facilities. So they can come for PE and other things, even though they're not in the classroom. So even though those classrooms may not be full, we're still required to provide the facilities. So
Interesting
Yeah.
trends. All right, now how about from Martin County standpoint? School zoning, access, big changes on the horizon.
So in Martin County, we also have a GIS map that I think for folks in your industry, that's probably the best place to go first. So we have an excellent interactive map that shows you every single parcel in Martin County. And then we also have something called OWL, and I honestly don't know what that stands for, but it's the same kind of thing that Thandra described, and it's a GIS system, and you can go in, you can look up any project. It tells you those projects that are happening, those projects that are planned, those projects that have been already approved, and those that have been approved years ago and have still not been built. So it's a really powerful tool for real estate agents to use. And the only other thing I'll tell you as far as the school system and kids going to school is that we have a process that all projects go through, as does any municipality, any county. And that process includes a group called the Local Planning Agency. And every project goes to the LPA, and that's brought to them through our growth management department. And the LPA actually has a school board member that sits on it. So schools are involved in they're represented and they're involved in every single project, and make sure that there's those concurrency numbers and that they're getting the impact fees they should in order to provide for kids going to Martin County schools.